Hello, I'm Chai Hofilania. Today we speak to Energy Secretary Jericho Petilla about the issues hounding the energy sector. Meralco's controversial rate hike, which was temporarily stopped by the Supreme Court, and the challenge of fully restoring power in areas hit by Typhoon Yolanda. Good morning, Secretary. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Chai. It's a pleasure.
It's been a lot of things have happened since Yolanda, and we were just wondering what are the status updates? What's the latest situation in Tacloban?
It's not only in Tacloban. You know, a lot of people are saying, "Why focus on Tacloban all the time?" I'm getting that kind of complaints, but I'm telling everybody that the restoration is not only focused in Leyte or Tacloban, but really the entire Visayas area.
Yes.
The first thing is first. We had to put back power on the town center. In other words, connect the power plants into the various towns, because that is the most difficult and most important thing. You can restore the electrical system in your house. If you don't have power coming from the plants, then you run it by generator. So first thing is first, put it back, and that's what we did in December 24-ish. Okay. Now what we're doing right now is making sure that the electricity is now going to the household. It's a bit of a challenge for the household, because electricity is, you know, when we connect a household right now, they're clapping as if they won lottery or something.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy as everybody thinks, because you got to get Bureau of Fire certification. Some people think that the typhoon was so strong that even their debts were actually disappeared. In other words, you still have balances, you have to pay that. Why? Because the co-ops, the utility companies actually live by the payments, in a sense.
But wait, let me clarify. What you promised in December was restoration of power in the town
center, vital insulation, and if there are houses there which are ready, we'll connect them as well.
Okay.
In fact, in Palo, which is my hometown, you know, to some extent people are going to say, oh, he's biased, that's his hometown. But I actually said, can you try to reconnect 100 consumers, okay, by the time we put up the electricity in the municipal hall. It's grid-based. After 2 days, none of them returned. In other words, they were still not ready. They didn't expect that we were going to be that fast. So nobody really cared about fixing their electrical wirings.
What made this possible? Why were you that fast?
Well, it's because of the people, NGCP and all the NEA and CDA and all the private co-ops who actually helped together. About 1,000 people actually helped us out in Region 8. Okay, they came, they sacrificed, they left their families. Not sure if some of them actually did it on purpose, but you know, they were all there. Okay, they helped out. Some of them stayed for Christmas. They sacrificed because
so they spent Christmas
they
there?
spent Christmas, because that's the only way you can actually do that. Otherwise, it would have taken us to connect the towns probably another 4 months. Okay, from now, another 4 months. So we did that. That's the most important thing. Okay. Now the next challenge is how to make sure that the households get their electricity. And when we put it up, the electricity in the town center, they actually thought, they can't do it, so they didn't bother. So when we were there, it's like, hey, who wants a reconnection? And there weren't any. So all of a sudden, they suddenly realized that, hey, electricity is actually there. So they started working on their electrical system. You can't reconnect them if they don't have any roofing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So some of them have been submerged in salt water, for example. So everyone, because I told them that's your responsibility now. So they did it in one go, and now we have so many applicants that were overwhelmed. From 50 to 100 a day in Tacloban, for example, I'm asking them to do 1,000. So status, by the end of February, we should be able to connect about 80% of all households in the Visayas, and 100% by end of March.
Has the situation stabilized? Well, we're talking about the town centers. Would you say that even without reaching out to the households, Is the power supply there more or less stable?
Good question, because you may have the lines, but the question is, do you have the power? The power plant that powers most of the Visayas is actually geothermal, and that's in Leyte. They didn't think they would get hit. They're situated in a very strategic area in the mountains and kind of protected, and they really thought they were not going to be hit. So when we inspected, pieces of metal were shredded, okay, by the 315 per hour winds. And that went down to zero from 520 megawatts. Slowly they're getting it back. Now I just received a text that they're now almost 300 megawatts. And the target is by the end of June, they should be back to 520. Although I'm fond of putting deadlines and pushing people for good reason. I'm telling them we have to target March because it's going to be summer. And we might have a problem with supply. Although on the other hand, the demand actually went down in areas hit by typhoon. I'll give an example. The extent of the damage in Tacloban. Bohol is a 50 to 60 megawatt. You know, ever since I took this job, I now measure economic activity based on electricity consumption. So Bohol is about 50 to 60. When they were hit by an earthquake, it went down to about 30.
Okay.
And in 5 to 6 weeks' time, they were back to 60, 50 to 60. Tacloban, two other towns, is about 45 megawatts. They were hit by typhoon. It went down to zero, not 30, zero. And in November, when we were trying to do demand forecasting, we said by February, okay, what would be the consumption of Tacloban area? And we did we did a computation. We recomputed several times, and we couldn't believe. We were sharing the same info, and we couldn't believe that it was going to be two.
From zero.
From 45 to 0 to 2. When in 3 months' time. We're not talking about 6 weeks. We're not talking about 5 weeks. Just to get to give you an information or a flavor of how badly it was hit. You don't have a call center anymore. You don't have bottling companies operating at that time. You don't have a mall. You don't have an ice plant, for that matter. So it's total devastation, and people are saying, so when will they get back to 45 megawatts? And I said, well, I'm end of 2014. Okay, these are all projections, and these are not, you have to be an economic expert to actually look at the situation. But from what I'm seeing, I'd be happy if we can get back to 15 to 20 megawatts by the end of the year. 45, that's going to be some time.
So destruction has really been tremendous, and industry is down.
Tremendous. It's like wiping out just about everything that you can see there. And although they're the most badly hit, there are other areas that were hit. Iloilo, for example, Capiz, Rojas City was also affected. So the demand for electricity this coming summer is a bit tricky, and that's why we're trying to come up with the proper projection, because that's the only way we can see whether we have enough supply. So our supply may have gone down, but demand has gone down as well.
When do you foresee things returning to normal insofar as power is concerned? And that means not just supply to industry, but more importantly, even households.
End of March.
This year. That's pretty good.
To some people it is. To some people it's slow. But honestly, if you look at the standards we're setting here, it's way faster than most other countries, even developed countries.
And when you say March, that's also stable supply?
It's stable supply. Of course, please don't ask me to bet my job on that, because...
Yeah, I was just going to say, are you making another offer to resign if you don't hit the March deadline?
In the first place, I'll have to be honest with you, the premise of actually betting on, putting my job on the line was, I'd like to explain that a bit. In the first place, I was a bit embarrassed, to the president, not to anybody else, because it's a job that wasn't mine in the first place. it's a job that was given to me, that was assigned to me, and I shouldn't be betting on it. But I couldn't help it at that particular time. I was being asked by media, and when they asked me, when are you going to restore power? Okay, at least, in the town center. And, December 24 was pretty tight at that time when we did the computation. But the biggest fear I had was media was going to report along this line. The secretary promised, okay, but best effort. Okay, no assurance. Okay, and then some tweeters and bloggers might come and say impossible. And that's the last thing you want to tell the people in Leyte when they are totally devastated 8 to 10 days from day zero.
That's a total downer.
That's a total downer. And I simply wanted to tell the people that, at that time, if you look at the people there, and some of them were family members, some of them were friends, okay? If you look at their faces, this is what they were thinking: I'm getting out. I don't want to come back here. Other people were saying, I lost my assets, I lost my family members, there's no reason to live. Some people were saying, to each his own, okay? There's no more law, let's just, there's no more hope. And what I wanted to tell them was, please wait, okay? There is something happening, okay? It's a bit of hope. It's December 24, okay? It's a bit tight, but, it's December 24 before you decide on anything drastic. Please wait on December 24. So if I was able to hold people, bring people's hope a little bit higher than where it was, that kept them going, and that made them survive up to December 24. I think that was the whole message of actually putting a deadline and standing by.
Was it actually also a bit reckless on your part to make that threat or promise?
It's a bit reckless, but if you weigh recklessness and hopelessness, it's a no-brainer. Okay, you have to bring up the high hopes of the people, because you can be reckless, you can still do rehab. You lose hope, there is no rehab if you lose hope. I have to maintain that level of having hope for the people.
Tell us a little bit about local politics in Leyte, because we've been hearing about the dynamics between the national government and the local government, Mar Rojas and who. And how has this made your job easier or harder?
Actually, we're not really affected. Okay, the power restoration is, I think the power restoration is the least political of them all, because everybody wants it. Okay, everybody wants it, and nobody else is able to do it. In other words, cadavre recovery, is that yours or mine? Okay, distribution of goods, okay, food packs, is that national or local? But when it comes to electricity, nobody wants to take it. Nobody can take it. It's only us. So to some extent, we were spared from politics when it comes to restoration on the power. Local politics and national politics there, it's a bit tricky. Okay, it's been in the news already all over.
How are relations between your brother, the governor, and
the mayor? I'd say it's civil. Okay, there are affairs that they actually talk. Okay, and it should be as such. Okay, I mean, on times of, not only in times of calamity, it's Leyte province and Tacloban city. You're in one area. There is no reason why the two governments should not talk to each other.
So this is not in any way affecting the distribution or progress insofar as restoration of energy is concerned? Because I know that in the, for example, housing, it's also one area where you have problems because of contractors and, well, essentially politics.
I don't see any problems at this point. You get complaints every now and then. Okay, the mayor will say that, only a few. I mean, that's a valid comment. Okay, and then what we do is that we have deadlines. We just meet them, and hope that people understand that this task is not easy. But we continue to do what we're doing. Okay, where any comments at all, you can make comments and I welcome all comments, especially those comments who can help restore the power faster. Because there are comments where they just comment, okay? But suggestions, for example, like can we get more contractors? And that's what we did. We're getting more contractors. There was one suggestion also that can we get the help of trainers to train more linesmen, which we also did. So we're open-minded when it comes to this, and to me, it doesn't really affect the restoration at this point on the power side.
Okay, from local, I'll jump now to national.
Okay.
The DOE has been investigating reports of alleged collusion, I believe. When do you expect to release results of your investigations?
This is the tricky part. Okay, it's tricky, but at the same time, there's a way around it. We've been asked by Congress.
Yeah.
Congress actually said at one point, tripartite, and that is PEMC, ERC, and DOE, look into the possibility of collusion or market abuse, or just an explanation on why the rates actually went up. We did investigate.
And what did you find out?
We started investigating, okay, and on the second meeting, it was brought up by ERC, okay, that under the law, the IPIRA law, the lead agency, okay, or the proper government agency that should conduct anti-competitive behavior is really ERC. It's not even tripartite, doesn't say there. We can continue to be tripartite, but if ever we present it into courts, that's going to be a bit technical, okay, because it's not the proper venue.
Yeah.
It has to be, we have to follow the law. And that's why at that particular point, ERC was saying, hey, we want you to be with us. But unfortunately, we might get technical here. So we will continue the cooperation because we're giving them all the information. We're sharing information with them. And every now and then, we have our own analysis and we tell them, you might want to look into the spike in relation to another spike. Okay, we continue to do that with ERC and PEMC, especially PEMC because they have all the data. But conclusion and the penning of the investigation will have to be done by ERC, otherwise we might run into technicalities.
The perception is that, well, either ERC or DOE was probably sleeping on the job because collusion has been suspected, and then you had this one-day approval in December. The petition was filed by Meralco on a Thursday, and then the petition was granted Monday. So in effect, you just had the Friday as a very slim day for whatever reactions,
Right.
and then it was approved.
Okay.
Didn't you find this suspicious?
Let's backtrack a little bit because DOE and ERC are interchange every time. Okay, and I'm trying to make this clarification because I'd love to actually have all the powers so I can actually decide, but it seems that the role of DOE is really policy making. Okay, long-term policy. How do we attract investor? What kind of mix do we have in the country for power plants? Okay, and it's not only power; it's basically energy. Okay, drillings and all those things. But these are more on policy making. Okay, rates. When you talk about rates, it's purely ERC. In other words, I can't even suggest any rates to them because they hear it and they decide on it. So when this was submitted, any rates, okay, for that matter, okay, any rates approved by ERC or charged by Meralco, it's actually ERC. Any reduction, any refund, also decided by ERC, okay, not by DOE. But anyway, at that particular point, okay, I think the question right now that is in the Supreme Court, because it actually goes into that level, is why ERC did you approve it in a flick of a finger?
It was too fast.
It was too fast. And the contention of ERC, okay, boils down to the rules that we have under the IPIRA. The IPIRA says that any rate petition should go to ERC. Again, I wish we had a role in this and say, DOE should recommend, but we don't. Okay, it goes to ERC. However, there was an amendment on the IRR proposed. This was actually proposed by DOE at that time, a long time ago. I was still young. Okay, I was still in local politics. Okay, it was proposed by DOE, and then it went through the vetting of JCPC, Joint Congress, and in a gist, what they were saying is that if there are rate hikes, okay, that are pertinent to adjustments, it should be automatic. And I said, even myself, I raised the question.
No,
automatic.
No room for a reaction or a protest.
You
or
can
question it.
It's like you can protest, but the rate hikes are automatic in nature. And I even myself questioned this. So we backtrack why it was as such. And the reasoning behind that, and I'm now looking at the JCPC arguments and all those things, okay, the stand, is mainly because if you are Meralco, for example, or any co-op, okay, you have an agreement with a power plant to purchase power. And a certain rate will be applied to your electricity bill.
Right.
All of these things will have to go through ERC. This contract will have to be approved by ERC. Now, in the contract, there are things like automatic, the contract says that this is a valid contract and this is the rate, but there are a lot of adjustments like foreign exchange, fuel cost.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this has been approved by ERC already. Now, 5 years later, supposing 5 years later, there was a movement on foreign exchange. Okay. And it's not only 5 years, it's actually daily. Okay. It moves daily.
Yeah.
So because it moved, okay, you really don't have, the argument on the IRR says that you really don't have to go through a series of hearings because it has been approved in the past already. You're not adjusting the rate. You're just putting in all the variables that were agreed already in the original contract. Now, if it is a rate that is not in the contract, okay, that requires a petition. So that's the argument right now, and that is what Supreme Court will look into, whether that's valid or not. And we respect the Supreme Court if they say that despite the fact that this IRR has been approved, if at all they say that everything will have to go through ERC and should be heard, ERC will simply comply. They just need to hire a few hundred people to actually review all contracts.
In relation to that, there's a question from social media from Robbie Imperial. He asks, given that, is ERC then doing proper regulation? How would you assess ERC?
I can only speak for ERC commissioners whom I'm dealing with, because the contracts that we have right now, and that's another peculiar thing that I really have to look into, is that when I came in here and I said, the challenge is what kind of policies do we put in to lower the electricity, only to find out that the contracts are 15 years, 20 years. I mean, it's not going to happen under my watch. But
your hands are tied practically.
But probably if we start coming up with policies right now to take away that fixed contracts, okay, in the future, but at the same time make it investment friendly. Perhaps that's my job, and that's what we're looking into. Now, going back to the question, is ERC doing their job? Again, these contracts, okay, have been formulated long before the current ERC commissioners, because we have 3 new commissioners. I think they're only 2 years, if I can recall. One is only 3 months. Okay, they're fairly new. I know them, okay, with my dealings with them. These are, I would say, very strict people. Short of saying they're academician, but they're not. Okay, one is an accountant, one is a lawyer, 2 are lawyers. Okay, and then you have Chair Ducot. People are always saying, Chair Ducot is there. Everybody's suspecting Chair Ducot. And I say, she's only 1 of 4.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a 5th one. And the president has not appointed a 5th one. But in my assessment, okay, the current commissioners they have good credentials. They know what they're doing.
But what is well, critics have been saying that in this particular case, because we had the highest power rate increase in Philippine history, and consumers are up in arms. So what protection is there for the consumer? Well, in this case, there was grave abuse of discretion, there was no due process, and there is suspected connivance or collusion.
We're looking at the powers of ERC right now because, again, the DOE cannot step in and stop any rate increase at this point, okay? Unless we go to higher court, like Supreme Court, for example. The ERC, okay, we have a system where the ERC will hear cases if there are complaints why it's high, but motu proprio, they can also actually say, hey, okay, we feel that this is too high, okay, while there is a pending case, okay, the increase will be at this level, okay. It's going to raise howl among industry players, but they can actually do it. In fact, they did it. The TRO is only applicable for December billing.
Yeah.
For the January billing, before the TRO, ERC actually released an order. And they said, we don't know what the January billing will be, the incremental bill, the increase. We suspect it's going to be higher than December.
Even higher.
Yeah. But they said, we'll cap it at 2 pesos for now, okay, until we resolve the December issue. They actually had that order. To some effect, that's what they were saying. We'll limit it to 2 pesos. They can actually do it. However, when TRO came, the Supreme Court came, out of respect for Supreme Court, they also withdraw that order. So even the 2 pesos is not being reflected in your bill right now.
Yeah.
They have to take it out as well. But they actually have the power to come in and say, hold on a second, okay, we feel this is not right, okay, we look at it, okay. They have that power. Whether they use it or not, or they've used it or not, is another question.
But they approved it. So how can they say that, hold on, this doesn't sound right?
For December. But for January, there was no petition, okay, they already limited it to 2 pesos.
We're approaching summer, and I think the fear here is that just like during the Ramos years, there would be rotating brownouts. Is this something that you foresee happening if things do not change and this situation deteriorates?
This is in relation to the Malampaya issue as well. So before we go to the summer, let's backtrack a little bit in November and December. People are up in arms because of the 4 pesos increase.
Yes.
We were the first one to say, hold on a second, okay, that's a bit high, okay, that's going to cause a lot of howling, okay. But as early as August, I already said rates will go up on December. I think I had 3 press cons where I actually said, it will go up. Nobody picked it up because I think at that time, I don't know, Chris Aquino was the hotter issue, and when you talk about warnings like this and it doesn't happen yet, okay, nobody really reacts, okay. But the media picked it up, but consumers did not pick it up, okay. I knew there was going to be an increase because it's very simple. If Malampaya is out, you use alternative fuel. The alternative fuel is more expensive. So at the very least, even without going to WSM, the alternative fuel is actually very expensive already. I'll give an example. Malampaya gas, 5 pesos. Condensate, if you can get condensate because you have to order it ahead of time, 7 pesos. Diesel, 14 pesos. So you can see the disparity in the prices that it's going to go up. By how much, I wouldn't want to preempt ERC and Meralco because that's their job. But I simply told the consumers that there will be an increase. Now it happened. It's 4 pesos. Kahit naman kami, na-shock kami. 4 pesos. Why? What was your expectation? Okay, well, it was going to be an increase, but not 4 pesos. Okay, in the past, it was about 180 or something like that, no? For one particular month. And this is 4 pesos. It's a bit high, and that's why we're in this situation right now. So they were saying, but what did DOE do? Okay, during that time, there was one focus we had.
Which was?
Which was supply. My question to you, Chai, is did we have a brownout?
No, so far.
Okay, the Malampaya shut down. 2,700 megawatts was going to be affected, juggled the supply that we had. Many more outages unplanned during that time, but no brownout. All I'm saying is that we made sure that the supply was actually there. Okay,
Yeah.
the price was a bit variable because it was market-based. There may be something to look into the collusion thing or market abuse, but the bottom line is you did not have any brownout. In fact, I can well tell you that in 2010, the last time we had a long Malampaya shutdown was actually in 2010. People probably cannot remember it anymore, but we were in yellow alert all the time. Ibig sabihin, we were using our reserves.
Yeah.
We never used our reserve in November and December. Only once, November 15. We were in yellow alert. In 2010, not so many people also remember, but in March 3, there was actually brownout, rotating brownout in Metro Manila. So on our end, okay, we made sure that the supply was actually there. Question is, in summer, is the supply going to be there? Well, number
And
one.
will power rates increase even more?
Okay, let's talk about the supply first, because when people talk about consumerism, they always look at rates. Nobody looks at the supply. Okay, you know, in Bohol, the funny thing is in Bohol, here we complain about rates. In Bohol, Governor Chato was always begging me, when can we have our power back? Okay, and I said, I'm working very hard. Okay, I'm losing sleep and losing weight, but I'll give you your power. And then before the end of November, I told Gob, you will have your power. But before you cheer, there will be 4-hour rotating brownout. And his reaction was, even if it's 8 hours, as long as I have power. So in this coming summer, okay, well, let's look at the power first, because if we really truly are consumer oriented, we not only look at the prices, we look at the supply. Okay, the supply, the forecast that we have is we have enough power.
Okay.
Okay, especially because Malampaya is not going to shut down, and that's the reason why we wanted it November and December. A lot of people are saying, but yun naman tinaon, Secretary, December, ang daming
Pasko.
bilihin, Pasko.
Yes.
We couldn't do it on December. You didn't want any power outages in December. January right now and February is a bit tricky because the seas are rough. Okay, summer is calm, but the demand is very high. We had to do it in November. That was the best time to actually do it. Of course, we didn't expect Typhoon Yolanda to hit us. But anyway, summer is always a problem in the Luzon grid, but we projected that we have enough power. Ang question na lang is, I always try to make sure that the plants, okay, have enough fuel. That's why we're trying to inventory right now, what's your fuel situation? Because you haven't gotten paid yet by Meralco, but you've been paid partial. Is that enough to cover your inventory for summer? Please bear in mind that when I say inventory of fuel, it's not as if I'm going to need my 200 megawatt plant tomorrow. So for this to keep on running for 30 days, I will buy gasoline tomorrow. No, it takes you months to actually come up with your inventory. Now is the time to actually prepare for it. And that's what we're doing.
I think a common question also that's running through our heads is, why is electricity so expensive in the Philippines, and why is it the most expensive, in fact, in Asia? And that's a question also from Marcel Ingles.
Sige, okay. I'll try to answer this without justifying it, because like you, Marcel, okay, I'm not going to be in this position forever. I'm going to be a consumer just like you. And if I'm here, it's because we have the same question, and I want to find a solution for this and not just complain about it. First thing is first, okay. You know, some people said it's a series of combination of distribution, transmission, and generation. You know, one reaction at one point, and they said, why don't we just run the Bataan nuclear power plant? Okay, because it's cheaper. Okay. Sabi ko, yung coal nga pinagraralihan eh.
Lalo pa yun.
Lalo pa yun. But you know, granting that it actually pushes through. It's a 600 megawatt plant, and I'm still giving it I'm still being open-minded about Bataan Nuclear Power Plant. I'll give it a level playing field. Sabi ng iba, sige, gusto ko na yan, para mura. When I did my simulation, we're paying Meralco $11.50 now. If we run the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant and put it under Meralco, it's going to reduce our electricity by 25 centavos, 30 centavos. Bakit ganyan? Akala ko mura yan kung generation lang. But you have distribution,
Yes.
you have transmission at the same time. Okay. One reason is, that's what we're trying to look at right now. Are we really maximized on distribution and transmission? For example, in this country, not so many people know that the electricity in this country vary from one place to another. In fact, if you want to know about the electricity prices in this country, log into www.corriente.org.ph.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll see that the most expensive is not Meralco. It's about 13 pesos somewhere in Luzon. It's 13 pesos. And the cheapest is in Mindanao at 6 pesos. The most number of brownout is also Mindanao. Cheapest, the cheaper ones have the most number of brownout. Okay, I tell them that if you raise your prices by 1 peso or 2 pesos by getting a temporary power diesel plant, okay, you won't have any brownout, but you know, it will bring your electricity a little bit higher. Okay, so various reasons on the way it's being managed right now, and that's what we're looking into. But on the generation side, I'd like to see the generation charges coming down, and it's actually coming down from compared to, you know, log into corriente.org.ph, okay, the older contracts, because you will also see there that the terms of the contracts, when it will expire, you will see that there is a coal plant there which is actually expensive. It's being sold at 6 pesos plus per kilowatt hour. But you will also see that the newer plants like GN Power, they're pricing it below 4 pesos. So as we progress and bring in new technology, the generation charge actually is going down. In fact,
and you need to bring in new players as well.
We need to bring in new plants for that matter. We need to encourage, my job right now is to encourage them to bring up more plants, because if we have enough supply, it should go down. If we don't have enough supply, then we're perennially going to have a problem with prices. But I also tell everybody that generators will not put up a plant if there is no demand. So we have to give them the proper demand forecasting. Sabi ko nga in one article, the demand and supply will always chase each other. Okay. Too much supply is not good for the businessman. It's good for us, for the consumer. Okay. Higher demand and less supply is rotating brownout. Okay. Which is bad for everybody, for that matter. So we have to have the proper forecasting, and we need to have a good investment environment. Now, this whole thing that's going on right now, we're also trying to assess the effects on the investment side. Although we're babysitting the investment side, we cannot forget that we also have consumers.
Right.
In other words, pag sinabi ng iba, mahal ang kuryente. Okay, magkano ba gusto mo? Piso. Well, that's very good.
Walang papasok na investor.
Walang papasok na investor. You'll get it now. Kung talagang puwersahin natin, you'll get it now. But in a few years' time, you'll have a brownout. Pag sinabi naman na 20 pesos, sobrang mahal naman yan, na ang consumer mag-aalma, and even the investors, okay, will have a problem with that because it's all short term. So, where do we put it? Ano ang dapat na balanse? But one of the reasons also, na tinitingnan ko, because I've been going around also talking to other energy ministers. I was actually in Indonesia a few months back. I was very quiet. Why? Because we have the most expensive electricity. Okay, I was not contributing anything. Dinner time, informally, everybody was asking me, how can we copy your model? I said, they must be out of their mind. Okay, why do you want to copy our model? We're the most expensive. Because there is no subsidy.
Oh, so they're subsidized.
In Indonesia, for example, on energy alone, okay, their subsidy is anywhere from 22 to 23% of their national budget. It's about $30 billion okay, that they're subsidizing. And I told them, that's why you're cheap. He even joked around, the energy minister. You know, sometimes I suspect that our gasoline, because it's also subsidized, it's being sold in the high seas to Filipinos. So I was just I don't know about that. It's something I don't know. But you can actually buy there and sell it here, in a sense, okay? And the government is subsidizing if you do that, okay? Power is the same. They're also heavily subsidized. And I said, why don't you try taking away subsidy? Because the problem with subsidy is that if you have a small economy, subsidy is good. But if you have a growing economy, your subsidy will also balloon.
Right.
And it's going to kill you at some point. And I said, why don't you take it out, taper it off slowly? They tried. The government was almost toppled. Okay? You can't, difficult to take away subsidy.
Yeah.
The political will that you need is more than just the ordinary political will. So that's one. Number two, I talked to Laos, okay? And I said, so how much capacity do you have, dependable capacity? We're about 15,000, 15 to 16,000. They're 3,500 and said, mas advanced tayo. Sabi ko, so is this diesel or coal? No. It's all hydro. Wow, whole hydro. So is that enough for the country? It's more than enough. In fact, majority of it, we're exporting to Thailand. And
So
I said,
what's a good model for the Philippines insofar as energy is concerned?
you have to look at our terrain. Within the contiguous Asia, they can pipe to each other natural gas. They can have transmission. In Europe, that's what they do. France can sell to Italy, for example. Okay, of course there are wheeling charges. We can't do it in this country unless somebody will invent a way of transmitting electricity wireless, like Wi-Fi. Okay, we're basically a set of islands. The terrain that we have is very difficult, and that's also why we have a huge transmission cost, which does not exist in other countries. But these are not excuses. Okay, we're simply trying to say these are the challenges. How do we maximize it through policy making?
There's a last question from social media from Twigs Mara. Which other energy sources will you look into this year, 2014?
I'm going to put heavy emphasis on solar. Okay, and when I say solar, it's going to be solar on Meralco franchise. Sasabihin ng iba, sandali lang, bakit kami hindi kasama? And this is what I keep on telling everybody, because Meralco franchise is a one-off probably in the entire world. Okay, ganito na lang, Chai. If I offered you something, okay, listen, in your house, I'm going to put solar panels. Ano yan? Sasabihin, no, listen, I can reduce your electricity bill by 5,000. Really? Yeah. Magkano naman yan? Hundreds of thousands. Wala akong pera. I'll lend you. Okay? Gives 10 years to pay, 4,000 a month. You save 5,000, you pay 4,000. It's not a bad deal. Okay? So you come in and say, hold on a second, the 4,000 is siguradong babayaran ko. Pero ang 5,000, depende kung may araw. Pero sabi ni DOE Secretary, on the average daw, you will save 5,000. Maniniwala ba ako sa kanya? Sandali lang. Sigurado ang babayaran, pero ang benefit hindi sigurado. Thank you, huwag na lang muna. So now we're coming up with a different scheme. Okay, ang gusto kong sabihin.
When do you intend to push this, by the way?
It's ongoing right now. Okay, it's going to be bidded out because it's government on February, hopefully installed by March. Okay, the first 1 megawatt.
Yeah.
And if we're successful on the pilot, we will spread it out to the entire Meralco franchise. Parang ganito ang mangyayari. In simple terms, okay, I'll put up a solar panel. There will be 2 meters, one Meralco, one solar. Meralco, you pay 1150. Solar, you pay 950. What if it doesn't produce? You don't pay anything. So papayag ganyan. You're not investing anything. Now, why am I saying that this will work in Meralco franchise? Because if I bring it to Leyte, where the electricity is 8 pesos and 50 centavos, they won't buy this. They'll stick out with their electricity right now. So in Meralco, it will work, and I'm confident it will work, but we'll have to run a pilot.
Okay, this is something that's interesting to watch and to look forward to for this year. We've been speaking with Energy Secretary Jericho Petilla about Meralco's controversial rate hike and the challenge of restoring power in areas hit by Typhoon Yolanda. I'm Chai Hofelenia. Thank you for watching.